Good evening, everybody. Hope you're all doing. Hope you're all doing well. Give me 1 second. There you go. That's better. Yeah, listen. I hope you're all doing well. As you can see, I'm a bit late. Do apologise. I was late for earlier stream as well, so I apologise for that as well. It's just been a bit of a mad day. But as you can see, we have a guest this evening. The elusive Kevin. How are you, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm good. It's just been kind of tiring, worn out with this COVID things. It's been I can't believe it's almost going to be a year that we are stuck in this pandemic, and it seems not not to go away anytime sooner, I suppose. And yeah, and what's the irony is this COVID has really brought up a lot of lit streams, a lot of streams from all football fans, and it's great to see everybody come into one roof right now, just talking about football, the love of the game, the love of the sport, regardless whether it's the English Premier League, the Bundesliga, the Serie A, or the La Liga. Yeah, it's great to finally have some football back. Of course, things are moving in thick and fast right now, but it's good to see the Arsenal as usual, but they never fail to disappoint us anyway with the performance on the pitch, I suppose. But yeah, it's nice to be back on the stream again, Daniel. Hope you're well,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah. I'm good, mate, and it's good to have you back on. Yeah, it's been a while. It's been an absolute age since I've had you on. So yeah, it's good to have you back on. It's always listen. It's always fun times when you come on the stream. So yeah, it's good to have you back on. It's like we say, it's been a very long time.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
So yeah, listen, we're going to be discussing the Leicester game. So how are you feeling about the Leicester game? Listen, we had a pretty it was poor against Rapid Vienna, although we just managed to scrape the win. Um, I said in my earlier stream that the standout performers in that game was Gabriel and Partey. It was nice to see them do really well, but other than that, there wasn't really a lot to shout about. So, how are you feeling about this game on Sunday? You know, Leicester are going to be a tough opponent, even though they've got injuries. They're a much better team than us on paper. So, yeah, how do you see this one going, Kevin?
Okay, this game, when it comes to Leicester, it's kind of unpredictable, I suppose, because we have seen the results last season as well when we met them in the end of the season. Leicester was a 1-1 draw, whereby, of course, there's the debate about whether Wadi's goal was offside because of Jose Perez involvement in that goal, and also Eddie's red card as well for a high foot challenge on one of those players. And of course, yeah, Leicester is one of the teams that's not being a surprise package right now because they are very inconsistent. As much as I rate Leicester players in high regards compared to Arsenal, but their performance has not been up to a level, up to a notch, I would say. And you have seen like Leicester being defeated by West Ham recently, and that was coming out of a surprise after going and beating Manchester City at Etihad by 5 goals to 2. It was kind of a surprise, but no doubt they will turn up again against Arsenal, and Arsenal have to be in top gear and top form to probably make a win on this because I suppose the battle is going to be won in the midfield area because we all know how the strikers we have. We have Lacazette and we have Aubameyang up front, and Leicester is going to depend on, of course, they're going to depend on Jamie Vardy and Tillemans as well in the midfield, pulling up the strings. And not to mention with Madison, if he's fit and he comes back into the fold, and then it's going to be a whole different ball game. But the midfield battle is going to be vital. I'm very intrigued to see how Thomas Partey would cope up with the likes of the physicality of the Premier League. And this is the type of games that we need him, and this is going to prove a real strong statement of intent. Because if we're going to play Mohamed El Neni in the midfield against the likes of Madison and all these players, Tillemans, all these players in the midfield, we are probably going to get outrun. So Leicester are a very counter-attacking side, and recently, if you were to notice, all Arsenal games are probably we are not basically playing in possession based. We are going also with the counter-attacking flow of football. So one thing that I'm kind of concerned about this game is most likely with the playing out from the back. As you can see from the Rapid Vienna game, we noticed that playing out from the back doesn't really go well with Arsenal when it comes to the lighter and smaller teams because they push up way up the pitch. And of course, playing out from the back, we have successfully scored against Liverpool that way. We have successfully scored against City that way. But it doesn't happen. Not every time it's a Sunday, you know. Not every. I mean, not every day is a Sunday. So you're probably going to be picked off. Especially Leicester is going to play right on the front foot, and their striker Jamie Vardy is probably going to be lingering around the penalty box on the edge of our penalty box, just waiting for to pounce on any defensive or goalkeeping errors. So that's going to be a high risk factor over there. So yeah, I'm kind of intrigued with this game, but I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah. Also, as well, there's going to be it's a tricky. We're going to have tricky times against Leicester because they can cause teams a hell of a lot of problems. And also, as well, we have to bear in mind that I think Jamie Vardy's out for this game. I think Sionchu is out for this game as well. But even so, they're going to cause us a hell of a lot of problems. So we need to be on our game. The thing that I worry about, and I'm seeing a lot more and more in this team with Arsenal, is that we are not great creatively. We seem to lack a lot going forward. Defensively, I don't think we're too bad. It's kind of individual errors that's cost us, and lately it's been Bert Leno that's cost us conceding goals. But in terms of going, defensively, I'm not worried. Listen, we've got a spine now with Gabriel and Partey, but I still worry for us creatively. We don't create enough chance. I think in the whole entire game, I think we only had 5 shots on target in the whole entire game against Rapid Vienna, which was completely awful. It was completely awful. So I do worry for us creatively going forward. I don't know what your thoughts on that, Kevin.
Yeah, I feel that Mikel Arteta is putting shackles on the players. I believe so because right now the spine is not really fixed in accordance to what we wanted, but we have got the necessary players in there. So if he were to go at 4 at the back instead of a 5, if he goes at 4 at the back, I think that can really nullify the threat and that can really pull off some of the shackles and make our offensive players much more effective. Because let's be honest here, people say that there's no creativity in the team because Ozil is not playing. I don't think so. That's one of the factors because let's be honest here, creativity happens. We got all the creativity on the pitch, okay? And when we are sitting back deep in our defensive lines, of course, there's not going to be any creativity. And if let's say I bring in Mesut Ozil and put him in the number 10 role, like most of the fans are keep saying, if you were to put him in the number 10 role and Mikel Arteta demands all his players to track back and return back and make sure there's a defensive shape and you go attack in a pack so that Mesut Ozil can maybe pull up the strings and play up some through balls or something. But that doesn't happen that way because Mesut Ozil is not a player that track back. He often stays up. And if he were to stay up, he doesn't have the physicality to just run through players and just take on 2 or 3 players running forward and scoring a goal. No, that's not his game. So I believe right now in the presence of Thomas Partey, so that stabilizes the midfield a little, and that gives a little security to the defense. So right now, what I wanted to see from Mikel Arteta is to release the offensive players. So I want to see the left wingers, the right wingers, and the center forward to be much more further up ahead of the field instead of being in the center circle and in their own half. which makes no sense. That's one of the reasons why we can't score goals, because we are so concerned on defending instead of attacking. And I think we have seen that with Unai Emery as well, when he wanted to defend all shots, but the defensive structure wasn't there. So right now we have got maybe about a 40% of a defensive structure. So why don't we utilize our strikers to the best of their strength? Because we all know that Nicolas Pepe also on the right wing, he's ineffective. The reason being is because he's so isolated up on the right hand side, because our attack is constantly flowing from the left, which which makes Nicolas Pepe so ineffective. And that's kind of a concern. And people often slate Nicolas Pepe for not providing magical moments, because we all know what he did in the French league. We all know that. And this player, he's a gem. He's one of a kind of a talent. Why are we giving excuses and reasons to Mesut Ozil for not being performing? Because when Mesut Ozil doesn't perform, we say that he doesn't have the right strikers. When he has the right strikers, and then we don't have a proper defense, it's always reasons and excuses when it comes to Mesut Ozil. But when Pepe there, since he's overtaken Mesut Ozil's fee, which was 43.5 million or something, and Pepe cost 72 million, so the spotlight's on him. And when he doesn't perform, everybody is on his case. But you have to understand the attack is going through the left hand side. So we have to neutralize this, and we have to utilize both the wings instead of concentrating on one wing. And I bet all the teams have noticed that our attack is constantly coming from the left hand side. And if they were to nullify the threat from the left, Arsenal are shut down, because Aubameyang can't dribble past players. He doesn't do that. That's not his forte of his game. He only cuts in and he takes a shot. Eventually, he moves in into the middle to score a goal. He doesn't do any cutbacks and set up goals. The reason he's playing, he's doing well on the left hand side, but that doesn't mean that he's going to consolidate his spot on the left hand side. So I believe we have to utilize both the wings, create a sudden utilize both of our wingers, especially. I think Willian is going to be. I wouldn't start Willian. I'll be tempted to at least put Saka in the number 10 role instead of Willian. And because Leicester are going to be a very counter-attacking side. And what's most important is having pace, having speed. And Leicester is going to play on speed. So I reckon Saka to play on the number 10 role, just to feed off and provide, because Saka is the one that he's not scared to take a shot. He's not scared to go on defenders, do a one-on-one. He loves that. So we need a player that loves challenges, and Saka is one of the players that love challenges. So I'm really looking forward at how Saka will perform at a number 10 role instead of playing in the. He's played in various positions, but I feel his best position is on the left hand side, and maybe Aubameyang drifting towards the middle instead of playing him on the wing. But I don't think so Arteta would choose that. But yeah, we'll see how it goes on that day, because this solely depends on the formation that Arteta chooses to play. If he's going to play five at the back, or I don't think so, because if five at the back is going to exploit our weaknesses.
Yeah, it's going to be certainly interesting. I just want to pick up a couple of comments in the chat. So big up Taib, big up Omar, Simpy, Hayden, who's the Leicester fan. Amica, hope you're well. So yeah, Hayden says, "Come on, Leicester." Obviously, he's a Leicester fan. So yeah, listen, I'll read some more of those out in a bit, guys. But Kevin, I just want to get your thoughts on. Do you think how are you? Are you impressed with Thomas Partey from what you've seen of him so far, or do you think he's going to be a good fit for Arsenal? And do you think that he will start in this Leicester game?
He is a must start for the Leicester game. He is a must start. But what I'm afraid with Mikel Arteta is doing more or less like the Wenger style. You know, Wenger used to do this, whereby if he plays the players on the weekdays, he would say that these players are half fit for the weekend, and he often rests them up and bring them as a sub. So this is what I'm afraid with Mikel Arteta. And if you notice that Mikel Arteta has pretty much dropped so many players that perform well, man of the match displays, especially players that score goals and assists, they often end up in the bench. Because I was surprised when Lacazette was having 3 on 3 in 3 games, in 3 matches, he scored 3 goals and he was dropped all of a sudden. Saka was playing well and he was dropped. And it's kind of weird. And Party is going to be very vital for this game because, as I mentioned earlier, the midfield battle is going to be vital in this game. The midfield battle. If Leicester overruns us, they're probably going to nick all 3 points against us because, in regards of whatever we may say that maybe Vardy is not playing and stuff like this, but I can say that our defense, though having Gabriel in, our defense still looks a calamity. If you see what David Luiz and Leno was up to yesterday, I think that there's some issues there, especially playing out from the back. And Leicester is going to play right. They're going to play right up to it. They're going to be just sniffing around the box, and they're going to be looking at our players making some mistakes so that they can tap on. So the Leicester players, of course, Ayoze Perez and El Nacho, these two players are probably going to be riding their luck right on the edge of our penalty box, waiting to pounce on certain errors because we we gave up a goal against a bunch of farmers from Austria, and it was kind of ridiculous, with the players, with the defenders we had. I reckon we are probably going to go with the same back four, apart from maybe Kolasinac and Tierney would be coming in, and maybe Bellerin would be drafted back. But I would really love to see Ainsley Maitland-Niles replacing Bellerin as well, because Bellerin hasn't. I don't understand what has Maitland-Niles done wrong that he doesn't even start games these times around. So Bellerin has had his run in games in recently, so why not give Maitland-Niles a chance? We persuaded this guy to move from Wolves. I mean, not to move to Wolves, so that we gave him a chance. But apparently, from what I am seeing, Ainsley Maitland-Niles never had a chance. I'm just curious to see how he's going to perform. Of course, he'll be up for it, and yeah, we need more younger players to just come out in this game, because I'm sick and tired of trusting the senior players, the senior core of the players, because they have really down to 3 managers in a short time span. Wenger, um, Freddie Lundberg, and Unai Emery. So 3 managers were downtooled by these players. So I think they'll do the same. So why don't give the youngsters a chance to just prove them on the pitch? Where's Emil Smith Rowe? Why isn't he starting? Why is Joe Balogun not called into the? Why is Balogun not called into the squad? Why is Joe Willett starting ahead of Emil Smith Rowe? Why is Eddie? Why is Eddie playing up front? Why can't we bring in why Martinelli wasn't given a shot? Because prior to his injury, Martinelli never even had a shout at the game at the team. I just don't get it when he was player of the month. And this type of decision is really making me question Mikel Arteta's decision on formations and tactics, because even Saliba isn't get called in until the very last minute. They were planning to loan him out to one of
Yeah,
the teams in the championship. So I just don't get it, because do you really think that our defenders are much more better than Saliba? Because I believe Saliba is much more better, but I just don't get it. This kind of decision really baffles me, to be honest. As much as Unai Emery had the tactics wrong in his last season, I suppose we were conceding shots on targets like nobody's business. But one thing you have to give credit to him was he was giving chance to the youngsters, and this is the thing. This is the key factor here. He gave chance. If Unai Emery was the manager of Arsenal still, Saliba would have a chance. He would have a run out in the team right now. And same goes to Emil Smith Rowe and Balogun as well. But Mikel Arteta is kind of afraid to drop the senior players, because I don't think so. You want to lose the respect from many people. Keep saying that he demands respect from the players, but what have the youngsters done wrong to not warrant a start? It's beyond me.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's Arteta seems to be very cautious with these players. You know, he seems to wrap them up in cotton wool quite a lot, which I don't get. And you know, it's a strange one. It's a strange one, but it's listen. I'm hoping that on Sunday we can perform a little bit better. You know, there's players out there with real quality that are not hitting top gear. So we got likes of Willian, Pepe. We know the quality players. Aubameyang needs to start scoring in the Premier League again. He's not done that for a few games. You know, Lacazette on his day is a quality player. Then obviously we know we got Partey. You'd like to think Granit Xhaka will come back in. Maybe Ceballos. So there's players in there that can perform better. They just need to start hitting some form.
Yeah, I agree, Daniel. Yeah, I agree. I'm just going to be interested. It's going to be interesting to watch what type of team Arteta selects for the weekend. Because he has done some massive, massive mistakes in the last few games that almost cost us. People keep bragging about the wins that we had, but why aren't we questioning on the performance? Because as much as the performance is kind of boring, actually, to be honest with you. The performance kind of boring. It's like play out from the back. You got no other alternatives. You got no other option. There's no plan B towards whatever he's trying to do. It's practically you follow this, and if this thing fails, you'll stick up for a draw. So I just don't get it. If you're going to stick to one formation, at least stick to the same team instead of rotating the team. Why are our best players that perform week in, let's say this week they perform better, the next week they're dropped? I just don't get it, because you're practically demoralizing them, because by playing them you're giving them confidence. By dropping them, you're taking away the same confidence that you give them in the first place.
Yeah, and Amica says it's time to start integrating Chambers into the team, because before he got injured, he was our best CB. He, I don't know. Listen, we have to be careful with Callum Chambers as well, because he has had a big injury. So that those kind of injuries, you can't rush players back. And we've seen with Bellerin, with his long-term injury, he's come back and he's not the player he once was. So we've got to be careful there. The player I want to see back in the team as well and he's fit and ready to start, is Martinelli. I think we need some creativity up front, and I think he can do that. So yeah, I want to see him back in the team. But then it's who do you drop, in it?
Yeah, exactly, man.
You're not going to drop a Bamiyang. Lacazette looks like he's going to be played, and is he going to get in over Nketiah? Do you know what I mean? It's just mad. It is. It's mad. I guess Martinelli could be a bench player. I don't know. Is Martinelli even been registered? Listen, I know that we had to not register 2 homegrown players, so I'd imagine that those 2 non-homegrown players that weren't registered is Ozil and Socrates. But yeah, it's certainly interesting, isn't it? It's so what we'll do now, Kevin, is we'll go through. So just give me your lineup, who you were playing this game.
Okay, my lineup would be, I have no other choice for the goalkeeper, of course. Leno is going to be the number one on this. But he has to buckle up. I don't think so. He has had the greatest of nights yesterday in Rapid Vienna, because his his fatal error almost cost us the game. Especially he didn't do it once, he did it twice. He almost cost us 2 goals yesterday. So he need to
Yeah.
buckle up, and I want him to be much more convincing. I want him to be much more commanding. I want him to be much more clearer with his defenders, so that he must know when to play out from the back and when not to play out from the back. If you have for facing a risk, players closing down, just whip it clear. Just clear it off instead of just passing out. Don't try to make things difficult for yourself. That's not too much to ask. It's just basic goalkeeping. If you're in trouble, if you know you're going to cock up or something, kick it wide. Just kick it off. Kick it off. Just take that threat away from you. That's all that matters. And of course, Leno for me in goal. Of course, in the right back is kind of tricky. I'm tempted to go with Maitland-Niles, but I've seen the performance of Bellerin is very much inconsistent because he did play well in against Sheffield, and when it came to Manchester City, he got spun over the other week, and yeah, he was kind of he was the main focal point when they scored as well. So Bellerin gets spun over very easily the other week against Manchester City, and yesterday you saw what he can do. He can assist, he can go back. But I want to give a run out for Maitland Niles. Of course, I would love to see Maitland Niles in the right back position. And yeah, Leno at the goalkeeping, Maitland Niles at right back. And of course, for the central midfield, I mean, central defensive pairing, I'd probably go with David Luiz and also Gabriel. Of course, Gabriel is from all the games that I've seen him play, he's pretty much man of the match in every of the games. So that's a shrewd piece of business, I would say, by Arsenal, and that's a testament to how he has played. And of course, on the left back position, Kieran Tierney is supposed to start. Of course, he had a mare the other week against City, but that's understandable because he was going through this quarantine procedures as requested by the Scottish FA, and because one of his teammates were tested positive for COVID, so it's understandable that he had never had a proper training session. And Mikel Arteta also informed that they were trying the best to get him on the pitch. And I think the lack of fitness and the lack of training has really cost him that day. He was like he was all over the gaff last weekend against City. So Kieran Tierney at left back and the central midfield area. Danny Ceballos is not going to play in this game. I think he's injured or something. So I'll probably go with Thomas Partey. I'd go with Granit Xhaka. I think he hasn't played, and I would go also with Willian at the tip of it, so that Willian to dictate and to dictate the tempo of the game as the number 10 role. And of course, the three up front, I would go with the left winger. I would want left winger to be Bukayo Saka. I want him to be on the left winger because we all know what he's capable of at the left wing. And I'm really tempted to see him in that left wing position. And of course, in the middle, Auba, and in the right, Pepe. So I believe the overlapping runs of all the fullbacks would probably give much more spaces for the wingers to just cut in and take shots, and probably gives much more freedom to our left and right sided wingers in the likes of Saka and Pepe to actually cause a much needed threat.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good lineup. You know, like um, I would slightly change that. So my lineup is going to be maybe a little bit different because I'm going to go with obviously Bert Leno in goal, which is pretty straightforward. He's the best goalkeeper we got at the football club. I know he's had a few errors. I know he's made a few mistakes, but he is the best goalkeeper we've got. Then right back. So I'm thinking for this that Arteta is going to play a 4-3-3 because I think that's the formation he ultimately wants to use. So I think at right back is Bellerin. Bellerin's he's dead set on right back. Listen, that isn't going to change. I don't think Cedric didn't offer enough for me in the game yesterday.
Yeah, agreed.
He was very, very poor. When Bellerin come on, he looked better. Listen, we know that Bellerin's not great, but he did look marginally better than Cedric. The centre backs is going to be pretty straightforward. Is going to be Gabriel and David Luiz. I think you've got. Listen, we know David Luiz has made a few errors and he has a mistake in him, but Gabriel just seems to be thriving, absolutely thriving under being aside him. So I think it will be him and David Luiz. Left back is going to be, in my opinion, I think it's going to be Kieran Tierney. I can't see Kolasinac playing in this game. I think he's going to be back to being Tierney. Midfield pairing, midfield three. This is kind of hard, because what do you do? Do you? I'm kind of okay. So I'm going to throw a curveball here. I'm going to go for Partey, Ceballos, and Bukayo Saka, because I do actually think Bukayo Saka is going to be in that midfield as well. And with Partey, Ceballos, and Bukayo Saka, I don't know. I just think that will be a good midfield. I think Xhaka will be dropped for this game. And then the front three. This again is tough. It's really tough. So I'm going to go with Aubameyang on the left. Going to go with Laka up top, and then I'm going to go with Willian out on the right. And I think that'll be the front three. But it's going to be tough. It is going to be tough because Arteta likes to change it every single game. So probably what I've suggested is going to be completely opposite to what Arteta suggests.
Yeah, exactly.
And, yeah, and it's just mad. Big up everybody in the chat. Ross Morgan, hope you're well, mate. I hope you're... Listen, I know there's only a few of you watching. I have no idea what is going on with bloody YouTube. So notifications must be playing havoc. I know there's a game on as well, Leeds versus Aston Villa. So that might have a little bit of impact, but it is what it is. Kevin, score predictions. What are you going for?
Ooh, this is a very trick one. You know something, Daniel? I just did a preview and a prediction show with Simpy just a couple of hours ago. And I was telling him that I can see this game has a goal, but I can see it as a draw. I can see it as a draw because I think both teams would probably try to cancel each other out in spite of Jamie Vardy's absence to the squad, and probably is not going to play. But from what I've seen in recent weeks, we have had way too less shots on target. And if there's less shot on target, there's going to be less goals. And that's the way I see football as a game. So I can only see Arsenal not scoring more than 3. And inspire, as a matter of fact, the last time we scored 3 was in the first game of the season. And ever since that, we have practically just scraped through most of the wins. So it's going to be a very tight affair, but I'm going for a score 1-1 draw, as I predicted in Simpy stream earlier. I'm going for a 1-1 draw. I'd really wish Arsenal to win, but I can only see a win happening if there's a controversial VAR decision that favors us. Finally, Arsenal becomes Barsenal, so Barsenal or something like that, so something ridiculous or something. Yeah, but I'm going with a gut feeling of mine that we'd get a draw on this,
Yeah. Okay, so you're going for a draw. So I'm going for, in this game, it's kind of tricky, because I do think we'll win it. I'm going for a 2-1 win. I think we might just nick it 2-1. We've got a lot going for us at the moment, and even though we've been playing poor, we do have to accept as well. Listen, the performances haven't been great, but we've been grinding out wins. Even though we've been playing poorly, we've been grinding out wins. And listen, I know that's a risky game to play and a risky mindset to take, but listen, I've always said that this season is going to be a season of maybe a bit of luck, maybe a bit of jamminess, maybe a bit of get going through games by the skin of our teeth. But if we're winning games and we're winning games ugly, that's the ultimate thing, isn't it? That's the ultimate.
Yeah, right.
The most important stat in football is the scoreline, and if we're winning games, then listen, I know people are going to criticize the performance and criticize that, but do you know what? We've got, I'll be happy with that. We've only lost twice. And do you know what, right? We've not even drawn a game this season, which you think last season we had a lot of draws. A lot of draws. I think we had like 12 draws or 19 draws or something stupid like that. So this game, we've had 5 games, 2 losses and 3 wins. Yeah. And the losses were against Man City and Liverpool. Now, arguably, Liverpool, we kind of messed up. But Man City, you could argue that if it hadn't been for that, and I stand by this, if it hadn't been for that Leno mistake on Saturday, we would have drew that game 0-0 because the game was dead. The game was absolutely dead for both teams. They didn't create much, we didn't create much, and what won them the game was that Leno error. So I stand by that. I do think that if Leno hadn't made that error, we would have won it. We would have drew it 0-0. So you could arguably say that the performances are getting gradually but slowly better. But you have to remember as well that we're not the finished article. We're by no means the finished article. We've still got players that need to get out of this club. We've still got players that are surface to requirements. But as Arsenal fans, we knew that wasn't going to get done and wasn't going to get changed in one transfer window. It was always going to take more than one transfer window. But yeah. I do believe that all while we're grinding out these wins, we've got to be happy with that. We've got to be happy with that. Listen, the 3 points is all that matters. And the Premier League is so open. So listen, it doesn't really matter the way you play. I know it does, and we all want to see free-flowing football, and we want to see free-flowing Arsenal. But at the end of the day, getting the 3 points is all that matters.
Yep, agreed, Daniel. What kind of baffles me was City was there for the taking the other week. City was there for the taking. And what kind of disappointed me the other week was why didn't we go for the jugular? Why don't we just try to just nick out? It's been a while. The last win we had was on 2015 with that Santi Cazorla moment of magic. But we haven't had that moment for the last 5 years. And it's time that we have to grind out some result in this big stadiums because we have not been doing so. And it's kind of depressing, Daniel, because City, you're never going to get a much more weaker side than City than last week, because we all know that they're going to improve next season and the season after, because they are constantly going to improve as a whole. Because by the time we are going to probably improve our squad, Aubameyang is going to probably retire. So it just makes no sense. And this was the perfect opportunity to put a landmark on this, just to put a landmark, just take a win, just go for it. Just go for it. If Leeds can do it, if Leicester City can do it, why can't us? Why are we taking it so timid? Why are we so scared of these big teams? You are a big team, for Christ's sake. Why don't we have a go for it? Leicester City and Leeds United, they weren't going to Manchester City in fearing that they'd concede 4 or 5 goals. They know they were weak at the back. They know that, and they just went for the jugular. They just went on. Leeds United were piped all over the pitch in the first half against City, and what they did,
Yeah.
they know that they know Manchester City's defense were weak, so they went up in the second half and they targeted their defenders. And guess what? They nicked up a draw. And any other given day, Leeds United would have won that game. But it is what it is, right? So I hope Arsenal really don't go into this game against Leicester City fearful of Leicester, fearful that we'd get exploited by our lack of creativity and lack of defensive or goalkeeping structure. I hope that we don't go and attend this game. I don't want Mikel Arteta to go on a much more defensive approach on this game because their biggest threat, Jamie Vardy, is not playing. So why can't we just go for it instead of like playing safe? It's time for Mikel Arteta to remove the condom. Go on freestyle, man. Come on.
I love your analogy there. Jesus Christ. So, couple of chats here. Tyrone says he's going for a 3-2 Arsenal win. Wow, that's in. Do you know what? That could actually happen because the way that the Premier League has been, the way that it's been. Things have been happening that could actually happen, but the Premier League's been so open and it's been a goal fest, so yeah, that could actually happen.
Yeah.
Grant says that's all well and good. This is referring to my comment about grinding out wins. He said that's all well and good, but when you do it week in week out, your luck will run out, and he's going for a 2-1 Leicester win.
Ooh.
Do you know what? I sort of get your point, Grant. And we kind of did this under Unai Emery, didn't we? We went on this run, and then it kind of petered out. I do feel though with Arsenal, and I've said this as well. So in some games we're attacking and we're really, really good, and our defensive is out the window. Defensively we're all over the place. Then in other games, we're defending really well, but we sacrifice our attacking threat. And I felt against Man City, we kind of did the latter. We defended really well, but we sacrificed our attacking threat. And I just feel that we're not quite clicking there. But I do feel a difference under Arteta. The under Unai Emery, I do feel with Arteta that he is starting to get little things right, and little things are changing in this team. Game by game, things are changing in this team for the better. And I'm not saying it's drastically, and we're not coming on leaps and bounds, but there's just little things. Decision making is a little bit better. It's not great, not perfect, but listen, it's not going to happen overnight. And it was very interesting as well to hear his press conference after the Vienna game last night. And they asked him about Bert Leno's kicking and trying to play out from the back, and when can he just kick it up the pitch? And he was kind of saying that he wants Bert Leno to use his initiative a bit more. Instead of playing from the back all the time where it could get you into trouble, he's got to learn when to kick it into row Z or the first row. So I do think it's there, but listen, we've known this for time as well, and that's the problem with having so much deadwood in this squad. We know that it doesn't matter how much you try and tell these players, you may have the football brain as a manager, and I do genuinely believe this. I do. Listen, some things Arteta does baffles me, but listen, no manager's perfect, right? But I do genuinely believe that Arteta has got a football brain. Okay, yes, certain things I question, So in big games, I find him, he experiments too much in big games. So against Man City, he played, Willian as a false nine. You can't do that in big games. Do it in a Europa League game. Like last night would have been perfect example to do that. Okay, yes, we know we're taking the competition seriously, but would anybody have minded if we'd had lost it, the Europa League? But you can't do it against Liverpool and Man City. And I just feel that in those games he's experimenting. He's using the wrong games to experiment.
Yeah.
But I do. Do you know what? Like, I do see progress, and I do think he's got a footballing brain. But the problem is with some of these players, you can tell them till the cows come home, you cannot do this, you cannot do that, or I want you to do this, I want you to do that. Listen, if it's in your brain to do these mistakes and to make these mistakes, you're always going to do them. You're never going to get it out. And it's like with David Luiz, there's only so much you can train him because he's aging. He's coming to the end of his career. You cannot teach an old dog new tricks. You can't do that. Someone like Gabriel, yeah, fair play, because he's still young enough to do it. Maitland-Niles, look at Maitland-Niles is a perfect example, right? When Arteta come in as manager, Arteta didn't rate him. He said, listen, you need to work hard enough. I expect more from you. And even Ainsley said it himself in the press conference on Wednesday. He said, yeah, Arteta just said to me I could do better, and I'm glad he said that because I'm a much better player. So you can improve certain players. You just can't improve old players. Old players, you're better off just taking them out shoot side and putting a gun to their head. Do you know what I mean? Because you can't you can't improve them. I'm sorry, you can't improve them.
Yeah, I agree on that.
Omar's going for a 2-1 Arsenal win. He said he sees us edging it. Mr. Bungle in the chat. What's up, Mr. Bungle? Hope you're well.
Big up, Mr. Bungle. Come on, G.
Tyrone says Arsenal depending on Aubameyang too much. We need a goal. We need 2 goal-scoring midfielders. I sort of get your point. We need Laka to step up, although Laka's been scoring freely since he's come back. Since he's come back from this season. I think Martinelli coming back once he gets up to full fitness will help with that. We know that he's probably kind of going to bang in the goals this season. Pepe needs to contribute more with goals, definitely. Partey's been known to score the odd goal and get assist as well. And I think Partey's going to be key as well because, like I said, he's not just a defensive midfielder. He's actually a ball-carrying midfielder, so he can actually alleviate that gap from defense to attack. I still feel we need a creative midfielder. And before anybody jumps down my throat, no, that's not Mesut Ozil. We don't need him. We need a proper creative midfielder. But listen, we can't get that until the January transfer window at least. And even then, it's more likely going to be next summer. But yeah, I mean, we have to just use the players we've got. Saka may fill in there. I know he's filled in there. And also, don't forget, we've got a young creative midfielder. He just needs to gain a bit more experience, in Smith Rowe. Smith Rowe's back from injury now, and I know that Arteta rates him highly. So, we've got him to come back who could probably do a job until we can get a better creative midfielder in. And actually, do you know what? Smith Rowe's a decent player. If you actually put decent players around him and give him the right encouragement and give him the right development, he can be an absolute quality player. So, it'd be interesting to see whether Arteta gives him minutes in the league with not having a creative midfielder. Then you've got Willian, who can also play in that role, who can play as a number 10 or, however Arteta wants to play. So, yeah, there's players in this team that can step up. Oh, and you've got Nketiah as well. Listen, he's on fire at the moment, Nketiah, scoring goals for fun, especially for the under-21 England team. So, yeah, he's banging in the goals. So there's players there. There's players that need to step up, in my opinion. What do you think? What's your take on it, Kevin?
Yeah, the players are pretty much average, I would say, Daniel. The players, they have to be surrounded by good players. They have to be surrounded. If you notice that Thomas Partey yesterday in the game against Rapid Vienna, he was literally playing in first gear. He was not. He doesn't even have to put 100% effort into the game to look way better than any of our midfielders. All he had to do was just play at 25% of his game, and he looks miles ahead of it. Can you imagine if he were to play at 100% at the level that he put himself at? I think this guy can go miles ahead, man. But it's just coming down to a level of players that we sign in. I tell you, a much more dynamic, a much more younger version of certain players. I reckon if you can sort out our midfield in the likes of, you got Thomas Partey right now, the much more experienced elite player that we have at the squad right now. Why don't we bring in some youngsters into the midfield for, like you mentioned, Emil Smith Rowe? He can literally learn a lot of things with the likes of Thomas Partey helping him to settle in, to understand the game much more better. And I would also try to go on as far as I say, get on Dominic Szoboszlai or from Salzburg. He's a good player as well. 20 million is worth a punt. Get him in. He's young. He is also a playmaker. Why don't you get him in? You can play. It's not God ridden that we can only play with one playmaker. We can also use two. So why don't we use two? Because Thomas Partey, I he's not only a defensive structure. He's not only a defensive player. He's a box to box midfield as well. So we have to take that into consideration as well, because Thomas Partey, and if Saliba gets in, and if Gabriel gets in, um, Tierney on the left hand side and Maitland Niles on the right, I think that's a good solid foundation to the midfield, I suppose.
Yeah, and I take your point about getting Szoboszlai in, or whatever his name is. He's a good player, but I think Arteta wants OR. I think that's what he wants. Tyrone says Arteta should switch from a 3-4-3 to a 4-3-3. I think that's his intention. I think he's just trying to ease that system in gradually, because the players aren't used to playing that system. But I know with Arteta, you're having Thomas Partey in the team now. I think he's able to try that system, because he's got Partey who can sort of be that anchor man from defence to attack. And he's brilliant. You saw yesterday, he put so Tyrone,
he was man of the match for me. He was man of the match, Thomas Partey.
So he put it in the chat. He had the most tackles, most passes, most creative in influential in people's in the opposition box and defensive box. So yeah, you can see that he's proper decent, and he's only going to get better. You think with the likes of with better players than that, he's only going to get better. He is. He's only going to get better the more he plays. And there was a moment in the Vienna game. I said this in my earlier stream as well. There was a moment in the game against Vienna where he would. I think the Vienna were on the attack, and literally, Partey just got back and made a last ditch tackle. And I was just like, whoa! You can see we have got one hell of an upgrade. We've got one hell of an upgrade to Lucas Torreira.
If that was
Um,
Torreira, that's a penalty, you know.
I don't know. Like Torreira was good. Don't get me wrong, but Partey's got more strings to his bow than Torreira has. Torreira was an out-and-out defensive midfielder, whereas Partey, he's got
He's a bit
more
of
to his
everything.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's more like, and I'm not going to compare him to Patrick Vieira, but probably he's the closest thing to Patrick Vieira that we've had in a long time. And I'm not going
Yeah,
to
I
say that
agree.
he is the next Patrick Vieira, because listen, Patrick Vieira was an absolute legend, but he's the closest to Patrick Vieira. He's the closest that we've ever come to replacing him.
Yeah, I don't
Tyron,
really like to drive comparison between, like, I don't like to really drive comparison between like the legends of this club. If you're a player, you come into this club, you make a name for yourself. I don't really trust in like he's the next Vieira, he's the next Thierry Henry. No, no, no. You create a name for yourself, and if you perform way better in the on the pitch, there's no comparison needed. You establish a name for yourself. If you do the performance on the pitch, fans are going to recognize you throughout their lives. Okay, that's a simple fact for me. We don't have to have a debate like the next Vieira, the next Thierry Henry. You play for the badge, fans will remember you until they are gone or something. Fans will remember you. How did Vieira and how did Thierry Henry got their names? They didn't say like I'm the next Ronaldinho or something. They performed. They did their talking on the pitch. So if Party follows that trend, fans will remember him for the rest of their lives. That's it for me, man.
yeah. Tyron says Partey is everything we want Xhaka to be. Well, yeah, listen. I think Xhaka has some strengths, and I think with Partey there, Partey can do the bits that Xhaka can't do. Xhaka's not really, he can't really carry the ball well enough, Xhaka. But Partey can, and Xhaka can't defend. Do you know what? Partey might teach Xhaka a few things as well.
I
He
think the
might teach.
best pivot for me. Sorry, Daniel. I think the best pivot would be between not Jaka. I would say Sabelos. Sabelos is probably the much because he's much more younger. His
Yeah,
anticipation, he probably will be learning much much more. Because Granit Xhaka, he's kind of like in an elder version. I think they are both of them are in the same age category. So I don't think so. Granit Xhaka is going to like listen or maybe take orders or something. So I think much more of a younger player would probably improve way better than Granit Xhaka. But that's just my opinion on it, though.
yeah. Big up John Wayne. No worries, mate. Glad you could join. Tyrone said Martin Keown compared Partey to Patrick Vieira and said Partey had one of the best debuts that he's seen in a long time. Yeah, that's true. But we listen. I'm not gonna be negative here, but we do have to remember it was against Rapid Vienna. Um, so we have to be cautious. Yeah, too many. He said too many players get caught. Grant says too many players get called an expat these days. It's embarrassing. Um, so yeah. Listen, I know what you're saying, and this is what I'm saying. That he's the closest thing we've come to replacing Patrick Vieira. I'm not, without getting carried away, because like I say, players have been compared to this player, and it's just been a massive fail. But it is what it is. It's the most. It's the most. Whatchamacallit. It's the most. It's the closest we've come. But it's just, you listen, we have to wait and see with Partey. He's only going to get better. He is, isn't he, Kev? He's only going to get better,
Yeah,
and
agreed, man.
He's not going to.
He's not
He's
going to
not.
take the Premier League by storm this season. He's going to get time. Time will tell. But we have seen the Premier League has swallowed the greatest players in the world before, in the likes of Di Maria, Falcao, and like Torres. We have seen like Premier League has swallowed a lot of good players in this league. But it's down to him how he performs. because from what I've seen of Thomas Partey, I think he'll do well in the Premier League because he has all the physical attributes. Probably he was just maybe 2 or 3 years later, because I think he has all the attributes to succeed in the Premier League. He's much more physical. As we all know, the Spanish Premier League is not the most physical of league. Premier League is the much more physical league. But by the body size of his and like the physical attributes, how commanding he is, how demanding he is. He doesn't shy away from the ball. He often wants the ball. He drives at people. He defends. There's a ruthless side towards his game as well. I think that's what makes him a much more complete midfielder that we lack since Patrick Vieira.
Yeah. Remember, guys, do keep hitting that like button. Do keep subscribing. Would really appreciate that. Listen, it's been a fantastic preview, and we've been going for over an hour now. So, Kevin, what we'll do before we wrap up is just tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, guys, thanks, Daniel, for having me on the stream again. Yeah, guys, you can find me in Twitter at KevinMark434, and that's where I'll be. And you can also, of course, you can catch me in Simpy and Daniel's channel after this because of the lockdown measures right now. So I'd be probably more hooked up in YouTube. And yeah, guys, do check me out in Twitter as well. And it's great fun, man, to talk about the game. Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, guys, do go check out Kevin's Twitter. Go follow him on Twitter. Also, guys, don't forget, on Sunday there's going to be a watch along for the game, Arsenal v Leicester. So we'll be on air. I'm not entirely sure what time we'll be on air because it's a weird blooming kickoff time. So I'll keep you posted on the channel. So stay tuned on the channel. Also, guys, I just want to remind you as well, YouTube's having a right old madness with notifications. So I'll keep you updated with shows through postings, but please do bear in mind that if you've got notifications on, you won't always get it. So please do pay attention to the times that I give you, and I will put put posts and reminders of the times. But yeah, YouTube's having a right old mare with notifications.
Yeah, exactly.
At the moment. But yeah, I'm not sure what content's coming tomorrow, but there will be some videos. But like I said, there'll definitely be a watch along on on Sunday for the game. Remember, guys, keep hitting that subscribe button. Keep smashing the like button. Would really appreciate it, and the share button. And yeah, until Sunday, it's there's only one thing left to say, and that's come on, you Gunners.